are on Mark Mercuri. Stan, there was a moment ago where we saw him consult with the doctor. Then he went to Kevin Sheedy. He spoke to him. We both thought that he was going to come off the track. And we'll talk about two players who have already left the track. But he's out there and he's doing more competitive work.
Yeah, I think it surprised all of us, Tim, that he elected to join in. It was full ground movement and he ran right through, which was fantastic. And now they've gone into some short, sharp work with a bit of contesting in it. And he really is putting himself to the test, much more than I expected to see tonight.
He's a lot better, a lot fitter than what I expected to see him too. And I guess that first conversation he had with the club doctor, Ian Reynolds, was to say, look, I'm feeling a lot better than I thought I was going to feel. And Reynolds has probably said, well, okay, go and see Sheedy. Ask him if he wants to stay out here, and he did. And that's a really pleasing sign for Essendon fans.
And even the look on his face, I think you can see a look on Mark Mercuri's face that he's feeling a lot better about himself than he was 20 minutes ago.
Well, two players have already gone in. Michael Long has already gone down the race, and one would have to expect or suspect that perhaps he's not fit enough to play this weekend.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, because this was his night to prove to the footy world and to his coach that he could go, and for him to go in this early, I think it's just a shock to everybody.
The other minor drama here, of course, is the fact that James Hird, who we saw just doing some stationary skills over the other side of the ground, away from the crowd, actually came, had a chat to the doctor, and then went straight down the race too. Yeah,
well, look, I didn't expect to even see James Hird on the track. I think this is just a perfectly planned one where they know that he's got quite a few days yet, and all they've just said to him is, look, just come out, run around, have a few touches, let the crowd see you, and then just get back in.
Well, it's going to be a real bonus if Mark Mercuri and James Hird both get to the line this weekend and play. The other really big bonus is the return of Matthew Lloyd, their full forward.
He just changes the whole side dramatically, doesn't he? Last week we saw against the Hawks that there were players like Barnard, Rioli, who had to play major roles. With him back into the side now, what we'll see is that we'll see a situation where he's the P out there now, and all of a sudden they start getting the third and fourth stringers in the side and they become very good players.
That's a really important point too, and I think that's going to help Rioli down there in the forward line too, just having someone of Matthew Lloyd's stature down there. Jason Johnson hasn't had a great final series so far.
No, he hasn't, but I saw glimpses. I thought last week I saw glimpses where he started to run on top of the ground. We haven't seen it for quite some time from that mid-season where he rattled off those 5 or 6 outstanding games. I just think he's getting very, very close. And I even think that hard game last week, I think he's one player in this side who would benefit enormously for it. I'm going to go out on a limb, put him down in the best 4 or 5 players on the ground, I'll say right now.
Well, one of the players that was in the best 4 or 5 last year was Paul Barnard. He kicked four goals in that grand final win against Melbourne last year, and I thought he was an important player again last weekend when it got pretty tight in that game. They sent him down back.
Yeah, look, he's become an outstanding player. He's no longer a bit player, Tim. No. He's a super player. Plays up the forward line, goes down the back line, saved the game a couple of times, then went forward and kicked that goal. I think also this week, you just mentioned about Lloyd. Lloyd straightens him up. He'll play that thing. You just watch Barnard this week, that floating one, getting on blokes a little bit smaller than himself. He'll have another outstanding final series. I think he loves this time of the year.
Talking about people who've had an outstanding final series, I thought the game of Steve Alessio last week was outstanding for Essendon in the context of the way that game was played. He got them off to a good start. But, geez, got his work cut out this week against Clark Keating and Bo McDonald, hasn't he? Because that's where they win the games.
Well, they do. I mean, let's face it, Keating just takes everybody on. He makes body contact, jumps into them, wears people down, then McDonald can come over the top. I might say that I think Steve Alessio has come of age. I think he's become much more physical in there. Just a little sign, too, I thought, in that third quarter, and I know we've been on his back, Barnesy. I thought Barnes in the third quarter, when he came in, went in the ruck, and Alessio went forward. That was the time when I just thought, second quarter, sorry, when I really thought that they started to get it together, but they're going to need more than a quarter out of Johnny Barnes this week.
What about Joe Mercedes? His form, I thought last week, that goal in particular was probably the match-winning goal.
It was a ripper.
It was classic Joe Mercedes stuff, but one of the fascinations, isn't it, in the lead up to this game is that match-up in the midfield. We talked about the Fab Four of the Brisbane Lions, but the Essendon side has got some genuine class in there, and none better than Joe Mercedes.
I mean, this man's a ball magnet. We talk about it, don't we? But he really is. This is somebody who they will release. The Dons to get them going, because he gets where the footy is, he pumps it forward, and as we saw last week, he's just really built up. Coming back from that injury, he took a fair bit of time to really get into the groove, but I think now he's well and truly on track.
An experienced finals campaigner too, part of the 93 premiership side, last year's finals, grand final side too, and Sean Wellman, I think one of the crucial parts about this game is actually getting Sean Wellman free.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want him. They don't want him really locked into one of the better forwards of the Brisbane Lions.
No, I mean, and this is the real selection quandary, I think, for the Bombers, is who can we get to really play the man-on-man, to hold people down, to relaunch Wellman. I think the worst thing that possibly can happen is Wellman to line up on Jonathan Brown.
Yeah.
If Jonathan Brown starts running all over the place and Sean is chasing him, I don't think that's the way Essendon will want.
He was out of sorts last week, Dean Rioli, but we've already mentioned the return of Matthew Lloyd. Will help a player like Dean Rioli. I think it makes it more predictable about where the ball's actually going to flow to for players like Rioli, who's an instinctive player.
I agree with you. And don't underestimate the fact that this boy missed out on the grand final last year, and I saw a fair bit of nerves last week, and I think this is a crucial thing. He'll be so much better for the run. Put Rioli down as a very, very good player this week. I mean, and that's one of the things we're talking about, isn't it? The nerves lead in, and I think this is one of the areas where the Dons are going to have a big advantage over the Lions.
There would have been a lot of nerves during the week too with the young players, Moorcroft, McGrath, Henneman, and also Bolton. Bolton played last week. The other players haven't played for some time. It's going to be a real risk, I guess, to bring in
now,
players.
Here's a bloke who'll know all
fellas.
about it. Who do you think out of Moorcroft and that?
Mate, good to see you. Stan, how are you,
Good to
mate?
see you, buddy.
What would you like to know?
We want to know.
I'm
Moorcroft.
Yeah.
Will he get a game? Moorcroft, Henneman,
I think Moorcroft's
McGrath.
a good chance. I think he's about a 60% chance. He's trained very well tonight. He's running really well.
For those of you out there in TV land that haven't seen Wogs Out of Work, this is Nick Giannopoulos, by the way.
The Wog Boy. No, plug the new movie. Well, Wogs Out of Work was 1989.
Well, you're the original Wog Out of Work, but now you're the Wog Boy.
The Wog Boy, yeah.
And proud to be it too.
Very, very proud. And in fact, I'm a coach here in Essendon.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm a coach of the Wog squad.
Right.
Yeah.
Who are in the Wog squad?
Joe Mercedes, Steve Alessio, and Mercury. I'm personally responsible for those three boys. Yeah. As you can see, I've got my trainer's jacket.
We can put him, Nick. We can put him down for big games on Saturday.
Those three boys will have a knockout Wog grand final. And you can say that now. You can say Wog.
I know you're going to tip Essendon to win this game, but give us a prediction. How much do you think the Bombers will win the game?
I reckon Bombers by about 24, 25 points. I think it's going to be a great game. I think the Bombers are going to be a little bit too experienced, a little bit too strong for them in the end. I've been watching this team since about 1969, Tim, and this is by far the greatest Essendon team I've ever seen.
We'll talk about that a bit later, okay?
with one player aside, but I think, you know, as a unit, the blokes get on famously together. They're all best mates, and I mean that's not just hearsay when you hear that. It's true. They are very close. That's the way they play their footy, and I think they're going to go very close on Saturday. And in fact, I think they're going to win it.
Well, Nick, thanks for your comments. Yeah. Also, thank you, Stan Alves.
Great being here.
Your
Tim.
prediction?
Oh, I'm going to go. I'm in enemy territory. I'm going to go for the Lions.
And a real surprise, Pete. I'm going to go for the Bombers. Back to you.
That is a huge surprise. Thanks to Tim Watson and Stan Alves, and special comments from Nick Giannopoulos out there joining the assistant coaching staff. He won't be doing it for much money because Harves has got the paycheck out there of the assistant coaches.
That's how easy our game is. That's how basic our game is.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Giannopoulos, I didn't even know he followed football.
And the funny thing is too, he mentioned the WOG squad as he called it. Yeah. Steve Alessio at one stage, I think Harves told us this story, he actually got out there and he was giving instructions in Italian at one stage. Thought it might confuse the opposition, but there was, I think it was Dimmer or one of the boys was in the centre square and was translating what he was saying. Michael Long's situation. The boys obviously were recording that last night. We saw these great scenes back in 1993 with Michael Long. It's a huge psychological blow for them, I think, and it's a blow for football fans in general not being able to see this.
Well, look, he's a super player, but look, just remember, this was 8 years ago, and he was full of running, full of beans, and these days, a lot of his good work, Baz, is more the caressing of the ball without actually taking a possession. He's one of the very good players at being either toe poking the ball out or getting it to a player without actually taking the ball in his hands and being constructive.
Such a very smart player, as you're saying, just a little deft touches here and there to his teammates, and unfortunate for him last night being injured, but I think it might inspire his teammates to go a bit further on Saturday and actually win it, not just for Michael Long, but an inspirational sort of act for Michael Long, who can't play, because he's a really popular guy down there.
Wonder what it's going to mean.
Presuming he's not playing.
Yeah, well, who knows? It might be a virus, but
it is Essendon and Harves and Sheeds, and
we'll ask him later on.
Their unpredictability has been one of their weapons, or Sheeds as a coach over the last 20 years. So
there's even been suspicion on Melbourne radio today that it may be a bit of a ruse and. That the reason that they said that he was injured is because they didn't want to drop him. I wonder how Dean Rioli's going to feel, though, because he is so close, and we actually got a glimpse of him. He was very upset last night.
Yeah, I suppose last year, too, he could feel the same thing from Michael this year, because he missed last year through injury, so he's probably frustrated at that stage, because Michael and himself are pretty good friends and pretty close, so just to see one of his mates go down at training the night before really a grand final. It must be very upsetting for him, and he knows how he feels. And again, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Dean Morelli play really good footy on Saturday just because of Michael Long.
A lot of those, and I agree, Baz, I think a lot of the Aboriginal boys, and let's face it, Michael Long, I think over the 10 or so years, has had that type of impact with the Aboriginal boys. Yeah. And I suppose he's dragged more boys to the Essendon Football Club and more boys into football in general than any other player I can remember. And for these kids watching Michael Long back in '93, he was their idol. Yeah. Imagine the dream for them, if it were to be the case, and looking at young Dean here, well, it may well be that it isn't a ruse. So, you know, let's hope that Longy's out there.
You couldn't see how it would be just a beat-up story. There's no, you couldn't do. I mean, I know Kevin Shee's pretty cagey, but the individual himself, Michael Long, couldn't surely do that to
There's
himself.
No advantage, is there?
No, not at all.
I mean, if Longy was hurt, and even then you wouldn't do it because the opposition would be a wake-up, but there's no real advantage by playing with Longy. I mean, because you're not taking any pressure off him, because I don't think he'd be a player that would be completely marked.
Now, I spoke about the fact that Nick Giannopoulos wouldn't get any pay as an assistant coach with Mark Harvey being on the assistant coach's payroll at Essendon. We have, of course, mentioned to you that you are, in fact, doing the show for nothing. But the good news is that we are...
call our pay.
Well, close to nothing. But we are catering. And after the break, we may actually have a surprise caterer in here. You never know. So you're feeling a bit peckish, Baz?
Oh, yeah, man. Now I've retired too, Pete. I can eat what I like.
I'll tell you what.
What?
Have a lick of your microphone. Cream.
Oh, it's still got the cake on it from last week.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I don't think we need to go there.
Not bad.
After the break, perhaps a special guest caterer. As we go to the break, last night out at Windy Hill, we had two of the greats of the game, Stan Alves and Tim Watson. Guess who else was out there? Crackers.
Surprised me. Surprised.
Do you knit, do you?
I do.
Who do you barrack for?
Bombers. Yes, the Bombers.
How much do you reckon they're going to win by?
Oh, heaps. Heaps and heaps. Goals and goals.
Who does your hair?
I just got it done at the hairdresser's yesterday.
Did you do it for a bet?
No, not at all. I did
Just
it
a
last year for the premiership as well.
How long does it take it to grow out?
Usually quite a few weeks.
Do you get your dandruff killed at the same time?
Yeah, I do.
What's your dog's name?
This is Darcy.
Darcy barrack for Essendon?
He certainly does.
Does he bark? Can he sort of bark and sort of say I barrack for Essendon?
No, he usually just shivers and goes to sleep.
Just going back to Mr. Matthews,
Yeah.
when he said that...
You don't like me, Lee Matthews, eh?
No, I don't. Never have.
Hate his guts.
Oh, for sure.
Like to punch him up, you got a chance?
Bring him out here.
Oh, you really have.
Us Victorians will show him what
Well, remember the last
like.
time he was in a premiership in 1990? They went to knuckle. Do you think he'll go to knuckle this time?
I reckon we should get him and Shooty out there. I reckon Shooty will punch the shit out of him.
Well, if the kids say thanks very much for that.
Okay, no worries.
Monday night at 7:30. Live and exclusive. All you need to know from the people in the know in AFL. We showcase and dissect the game week by week. Profiling, interviewing the superstars. With news and views from the coaches and the legendary icons of the game. Tim Watson heads the team of Alves, Silvani and Connolly in Football Feedback. Live Monday night at 7:30 on C7 Sport.
Strut your stuff and live out loud.
What's so important about living longer and feeling safe?
Say what you feel.
I'm just not in the mood tonight.
Liberate your passion.
Yeah.
Holly Hunter.
I want to stop agreeing to things I don't really want.
Danny DeVito.
I'm sorry.
That's perfectly all right.
Living out loud. Now showing on Movie One.
I want to tell you I'm sorry. You'll be a lot better this time. I promise. It's just that you look so good in those things. They're too sexy.
What's wrong? You looked pretty before we were married.
Don't you ever know what to pull on me. Ever. You know how to behave. Leave me alone.
Farrah Fawcett stars in The Burning Bed, now showing on Movie Greats.
Well, what first impressed me about Advert was probably the quality of not just the facilities and the technology and stuff, but also the teaching. I mean, we have got pretty small class sizes, so you know that if you need help, you can always get it.
niesamowite widowisko, które mieliśmy po walce Polaka Walaszka z Amerykaninem Krusiem. Wyszedł, jest niższy od swego przeciwnika. Musi bardzo uważnie boksować.
The Bombers have got to kick a goal themselves. Alessio went forward, probed. Tallis rode it well, but gave it to Barnard. Barnard's hook in kick. It's a goal. It bounced back. He's kicked the goal. The centre bounces are also critical. Joel Smith, well tackled by Blumfield. Alessio calls the play on. The kick has been bolted. Scott Lucas, 50 metres out. He's kicked it long, and he's kicked it accurately. 15 points now, the Bombers lead this preliminary final.
Scott Lucas, a very important cog in the Essendon wheel. Welcome back to our special preview of the 2001 AFL Grand Final, live around Australia on C7 Sport. And we're going to be here for about another 3 3/4 hours. Is that all right with you, Dave?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. You been doing anything with your hair?
No. Combing it, or why?
You've just got a few black tips in it.
No, actually, that was Lizzie's gone very hard with the water today. What do you think I'm colouring?
No, it's looking good.
Dave, if I was going to colour it, do you think I'd give it a better colour than this?
I'll tell you what, it looks like you've really given it a decent splash. You're really into grand final mode.
I am.
Who are you following?
Collingwood, by the look of this.
How was our friend out there with crackers? Black and red.
Yes,
they go over the top, but all part of the fun.
Quickly, we should say hello to a couple of people who watched the show. I bumped into Leon Daphne at the airport last week, former Richmond president who loves the show. So, Leon, thanks for your support.
Thanks for the support, Leon. How about a car?
Yeah, send us a car. We'd be happy.
Okay. No, that's great.
Who else watches the show?
Oh, you cut me.
Greg Champion?
Champs, yes. Yeah. Mentioned to me yesterday. So Champs is out there. He's up north. So good on you, Champs. We have to get him in, or you guys have to get him in next year.
What are you saying? Even if we're on next year, that you're not going to be part of the show?
No, of course I'm going to be
I'll get emotional now.
I will be a part of the show.
Harry Stone
Even
might be a part of it.
Why don't we buy the rights to it?
Because we haven't got threepence to rub between
them. Can you make any money on 28 people?
I don't think so. By the way, thanking people who have been great supporters of the show. We had a tremendous response with the emails throughout the week. The Essendon Grog Squad, the big fella, says that he reckons this is the best footy show that's ever been on television. Now you know why he's in the Grog Squad.
Yeah, been locked away.
Also, Mick and Josh Morrissey, who've sent us a couple of emails throughout the year.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Ricky Gower, Tasmania's #1 footy focus fan.
Good on you, Rick.
And our old friends from Queensland who will be very happy this week, Kay Curry and Kerry Dowsett, who wrote in throughout the week to say,
I didn't know
well
that.
done. What's that?
This right here about Haas. Could you please explain that?
Well, actually, last week I suggested that Harbs was playing ducks and drakes, and he wanted to know what a drake is. And Kay Curry and Kerry have said, could you please explain to Mark that a drake is a duck with a dicky, as in Donald. So thank you, Kay Curry and Kerry, for that.
You better explain that to him when he comes in.
Yeah, I will. A little bit later on. Well, yesterday, of course, the Lions were also going through their paces. Before training, they had a media conference, and the men to face the cameras were Sean Hart, Alistair Lynch playing in his 249th game, and assistant coach Gary O'Donnell.
No, it's exciting, and it's hard to keep the smile off the face, which is, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Certainly it's time for serious thought and serious preparation, but yeah, it's exciting stuff. And gee, I am looking forward to it because there isn't any greater challenge, is there, for a footballer, and there isn't any higher peak. It's like the Mount Everest of things, and for a footballer, and it's been a long, hard road. Don't let us forget that. But hopefully we can culminate the good and the bad times with a special result this weekend.
It's cliched to try to make it as normal as possible this week, and we haven't achieved anything. But we haven't won anything by going through to this week. The place is really determined to take the next step, and I suppose in the future you might reflect and say, yeah, we made it to a grand final, but it's much more than that. And everyone that I've spoken to, they've been losing grand final team have been gutted, and it's one of their worst memories of their career. So certainly getting to this stage is not the be-all and end-all. We're looking forward to success Saturday night.
There's been a noticeable war of words, I suppose, between the coaches, and maybe that's been a good distraction to put the media on them. Lee's a pretty clever bloke, and it might be a driving reason behind the mini war of words that's going on there to get the reflection off the players and leave them alone, and to get onto the coaches maybe, and that's been pretty clever. But I think everything's gone well so far, and hopefully training's excellent tonight, and you know, the spirit and the feeling of each player and his preparation just improves from tonight onwards.
Our build-up is, it's going to be as normal as possible. We've got the grand final parade, which is the only thing we'll do differently, and you've got a training session that we normally do on the Friday at Albert Oval, the Albert Ground there in St Kilda. We'll have a few more people there. That's about it. It'll be normal other than that.
It should be an advantage, certainly, because of the fact that Essendon played in pretty hot conditions, I believe, you know, Melbourne-wise last week. It should be an advantage, but again, it's all relevant to how we perform and you know, how we handle all the pressure and that sort of stuff. You know, it's no good having a 27-degree day if you're 8 or 10 goals down at some stage in the game. So it's all relevant to that.
I remember that, like, talking about the hot weather, I remember the 93 preliminary final, Essendon came back from 7 goals down half-time. That was a very hot day as well. We were cramping up that day. And each week's different. And the modern-day player, all clubs prepare the modern-day player pretty well as far as recovery goes. And they ensure that they get their best blokes on the track each week. And I'd say that'll be the case with the 2 teams this week.
Well, they've been beaten more times. We hadn't beaten them for a few years, and I suppose we got one back by winning at the Gabba, which started us on our run earlier in the year. It made us believe in ourselves and believe in our team plans and team roles. So that was a confidence-building one. But you know, it's we've just got to stick to our game plan.
Have you read Sheeds this week, Gary? Have you watched and read his comments with interest?
Oh yeah, like he's the old master at playing the game, and the game's being played by both coaches at this stage. I think that'll all be forgotten in the last couple of days. I think early in the week they've got it over and done with. I don't think it has that much effect on players running out once they've got to chase a little round or oval leather-shaped object. I don't think it comes into play.
Gary O'Donnell, Sean Hart and Alistair Lynch speaking to the media before training at Cooperoo.
Who was that?
Oh, we'll come to that in a moment. What about the difference in the atmosphere? Windy Hill, there were about 4,000 people there. Cooperoo, just suburban Brisbane, and it was a little bit different, Baz.
It's the old Carrara days from a few years ago, where it was very relaxed and that singlets on and shorts and nice sort of country atmosphere, that's their routine. Well and good, they do it now and then during the year. They may as well keep on doing it, but I think they'll come down to Melbourne and a very rude awakening as of tonight onwards.
The Albert Oval, and they pretty much announced it, so they will get a rude awakening, I suppose, down at the ground.
Here comes the Brownlow medalist.
Here he is.
She's just like his local footy club, isn't it? Running out to his old club from years ago. It's just the atmosphere cars around the outside of the ground.
It's a wonder they weren't tooting the horns as he ran out.
I would love to see him do a handstand there and slip. He'd end up cracking his skull. It would want the ground to be rock hard down there, different than the Gabba. Sean Hart? That wasn't Sean Hart.
Yes, it was. He didn't have the helmet on, though.
Looks nothing like Sean Hart.
It's amazing. We haven't really seen him, although the last couple of weeks he's taken the helmet off and given it to a young fella or a young person in the crowd after the wins. Now, you alluded to the fact that we did have a presence up there in Queensland yesterday, the footy-focused team. We sent Andrew Buse, an old teammate of yours. He was up there. And what about our mate from the VFL?
Junked it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be here doing the hard slog like we were doing, getting ready for the show. We just popped him on a plane up to Queensland. Andrew Marr, here he is with Andrew Buse.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. We're down here at Cooperoo. The Lions have been training for about 10 minutes now. Grand final session. This is the last run, the last drill they'll have before they head off for Melbourne tomorrow. Massive crowd down here. Beautiful night for training. The wind's actually up, which will probably be fantastic. Might replicate a few of the conditions that we've seen in operation at the MCG already through this final series. We're going to talk a lot about the training, the individuals involved, the big factors facing this team, and to help me, one of the great Lions, or Bears, stroke Lions of all time, Andrew Buse.
Murray, how are you, mate?
Good, good.
It's really super exciting. That's what I'm feeling at the moment. We've got a great crowd. The people are absolutely thrilled, but in some strange way, you can sense that they've actually got no idea what this is all about.
Well, it's funny. I mean, it's all new territory for them from here on in. I mean, they've been to preliminary finals before, but they've never gone past the preliminary final before. And your feelings before we get onto the players, the training's happening behind us now, before we get onto the specifics of all of that, how are you feeling as one of the blokes who was here in the hard days and saw how tough it was? I mean, how do you describe your emotions right now?
It started the minute I actually felt comfortable. Last week's preliminary final, probably halfway through the last quarter where I knew there was no possibility of the game being out of reach for the Lions. And from that point on, from being nervous, I've actually become really excited.
Yeah.
It's just been, I guess, a bit of a theme for me this week, and I've been talking to people, you know, all throughout the week, and the thing has been, how do you feel, and what do you hope the boys are going through at the moment? And I know they're going to be nervous, but you try and sell the message, well, it's okay to be nervous, but turn that into excitement, and you'll be okay with it.
Yeah. Well, look, obviously, let's talk about some of the individuals involved here. And I mean, Jason Ackermanis, let's look at him first of all. I mean, we'll get out of a little bit. I mean, the week that he's had, I mean, how does this club throw its arms around him now and make sure that the Brownlow's put behind him once and for all, and he just can now focus on what is now clearly the biggest hurdle of his football life?
Yes, look, Jason's one of those unique characters, and I think the club manage him extremely well. It's interesting, my first few years here at Brisbane, they had a big brother program, and Jason was my little brother, and so I actually know Jason.
I reckon there might have been some interesting stories there, Busey, somehow.
There's a lot of stories, and a lot of them would probably have him committed to some sort of asylum or some sort of protective custody.
I think we got that impression the other night. I mean, this club's been quite forward about the fact that he was a wild child when he first came down here, and yet through the growth of personal relationships and the meeting of Megan and the embracing of her family by Jason has turned him around 100%. Just in a nutshell, what was he like when you first came into contact with him?
I think you could probably use one word to describe him, and perhaps the word nutter would be very appropriate. But
have you got a yarn you can give us? Like, was there something in particular that springs to mind that's not XXX rated or likely to land him in trouble with the law?
No, look, I can give you this one, and this was something that happened to him on one of those very, very busy days down to the Gold Coast. And Jason inadvertently in his vehicle had cut off what you would classify as one of the Black Widow motorcycle gang.
Oh, good.
And
not a good career move, that.
Well, he was forced to pull over, in fact, and whilst he got out to plead his case to this big monster with the big beard and the blowfly glasses and all the rest, the fella reached in, grabbed his keys from his ignition, thrown them into the medium strip somewhere, and proceeded to belt living daylights out of him. Jason learnt from that one.
If that's not going to teach you a lesson, I don't think any will. Deserved winner, just finally, I mean, great winner.
Look, I saw Jason live once this year, and I felt that if that was an indication of how he was playing throughout the year, that the best on ground against Geelong was well and truly deserved. And I reckon that if he's played up to that standard, there was no doubt he was the winner that should have been.
We've got Daniel Bradshaw, the other one, all eyes on him. He's just running through the middle of the Cooperoo Oval right now, and last week went into that preliminary final under a real cloud with the calf. Seemed to get through the game okay with the calf, but then suggestions were that he had a knock on his knee. Right now, seems to be moving pretty freely.
Yeah, look, Brad, and I was in discussion with a couple of blokes early last week, close to the club, and it was a very strong suggestion. It was only a knock, and it was just one of those things. Sometimes you get a knock on the calf, and it takes a fair bit to get that bruising out, and he'll be better for it this week.
Alistair Lynch, I mean, excuse me, his personal journey to this point has been, well documented, and it could be one of modern football's great stories at the end of this week. I mean, if he can cap all the trials that he's been through with the premiership, I mean, what a fantastic conclusion, even though he's got more footy to play, of course. I mean, what do you think he's come to represent to this football club?
Oh, look, just pure determination. I saw Alistair Lynch in the first year when he contracted the first symptoms of the syndrome that he had.
Yep.
And I was in a line behind him on the track, and all of a sudden he keeled over in front of me and started vomiting violently. And no one knew what the hell was wrong with him. There's just no indication.
What were you thinking at the time?
Well, at the point in time, I just thought it could have been a bit of heat stroke or something like that. And he just went from bad to worse to extremely critical.
Yeah.
And for him to be able to fight back from all that is an absolute credit to him. And look, he's inspiration in itself.
Did he carry, as far as you know, any negative or baggage from the acrimonious departure from Fitzroy? And when he left to come up here, there was some bad blood between he and the footy club. I think Fitzroy supporters, he was one of their real champions, and they saw it as a minor treachery when he left, followed the money, all that. Do you know that whether he had to carry any skeletons in his closet around with that for some period of time?
I guess that's one of those questions that really Alistair will be the only person who knows the true answer to. But I think I only ever knew Alistair, as a true professional, and he did extremely well and covered any emotion was just covered by professionalism.
Yeah. And look, I guess he can pay him back in spades this week. I mean, there's got to be a lot of Fitzroy support. Clearly, in Melbourne, there's been some great images of the old Fitzroy people almost coming back ready to embrace this new entity, and what a fantastic way for him to pay them back, I suspect.
Oh, look, it'd be just enormous. You just don't have an opportunity in it. As your football career goes along, you do make bloopers and blunders and mistakes, and in some ways you never get a chance to fix them up.
Yeah.
And this could be one for Alistair.
What a
Good luck to him.
great way of putting it. Justin Lepage, the hamstring that he had, the battles that he's had, he's come back and just seems to be on a gradual incline over the last 3 weeks. He's just been getting a little bit better each week. Their forward line, Essendon's forward line, is so super talented. Lepage, Michael, White, Chris Scott. Have you got in mind who you think might be the right matchups for those blokes? Lepage to begin with. Do you think he'll get Lloyd?
I think that would be the first bloke that he would have a crack at, definitely. Look, the way that Essendon play their forward structure, the rotations they run, the flexibility they have from the back line to go forward. You know, Hurd will sometimes slip back, he'll go midfield. You won't be blessed with the opportunity to stay on that one bloke the whole day.
Yep.
In the first quarter, each of those fellas will probably have 3 different opponents.
Yep.
And that's what will happen. That's what Sheeds is good at. He's Mandrake, he'll manufacture something mystical,
Yep.
and all of a sudden you'll have 3 opponents who've been changed through, and sometimes you don't have a choice in that.
And Michael, a fantastic backup. I mean, he's led the league in spoils this season. He's had the fewest amount of goals kicked on him while he's been permanently positioned at fullback than any other key defender in the league this season. So what a fantastic flip-flop variety and that Lee Matthews has at his disposal if Lepage does struggle.
Yeah, look, Malcolm Michael was a kid that did a pre-season down here in one of my early years.
Do you remember him?
I remember him. I remember him training, and you could just sense that he was a talent. And he was still, he's twice the size he was then. He was just a scrawny kid. But he's been able to transform himself from somebody who was makeshift in Collingwood's team to be an absolute KP here in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And it couldn't have worked out better. You know, the trade for those players that went to Collingwood and the trade in Brisbane's favour here, I believe. You know, he's just added strength to that backline and flexibility, and you know, he's just one of those fellas that you can just rely on to be dependent, that he will push the ball forward and then to boundary and follow it up with second efforts. He's a class act. He's a good, honest, solid player.
Just coming out for another drill now, and we see in the middle of that picture Matthew Kennedy, and I just wonder what's going through his mind at the moment. I mean, everybody knows that Alistair Lynch is going to be recalled into this side, and it looks, you know, to all intents and purposes, that he'll be the one to make way for him. How difficult will it be for him as he works right behind us here now? How difficult will it be for him tonight?
Look, Max is one of the team favourites. He's been one of the fellas who's just been a Brisbane Bear stroke Lion through and through, and you know, he's still a single man racing around the traps, but he's one of those fellas who your heart goes out to him should he miss out. Likelihood that he probably will, but you just hope that he can still remain part of it even if he doesn't participate. I know that's probably a big statement, but you know, you just hope that might happen.
Well, the team's bigger than any individual, isn't it? It always comes back to that. Now I guess everybody's got a role to play, so I'm sure he's still got something to contribute tonight.
Matthew's the type of bloke that should the opportunity arise, there could be an injury occur out there inadvertently, and he'll get himself a game.
Well, there's plenty more individuals we need to put our peepers across before this training session's over. We'll be back with more of this grand final special edition of Footy Focus right after this break.
The CUB AFL 2001 Grand Final. And you'll see all the pre-match entertainment, followed by the big game live Saturday from 1 on C7 Sport. Look at that! Essendon are out to make it back-to-back titles. Champagne football! For Brisbane, their first chance to grab the ultimate glory. All the excitement, all the action. The CUB AFL 2001 Grand Final live on C7 Sport.
Harvey Norman for 36 months interest-free terms. 36 months interest-free on furniture, bedding and bedroom furniture. 36 months interest-free on electrical items like fridges, freezers, TVs and stereos. 36 months interest-free on computers, printers, communication items and software. What a deal! 36 months interest-free. 36 months interest-free terms now at Harvey Norman. Minimum purchase $500, 1/3 deposit. Conditions apply. See store for details.
When you go to ADFA, you are joining the Defence Force.
But it's not just the leadership training. I mean, I'm studying physics and I've got friends studying IT and management and engineering. So in the end, we'll all have fully recognised civilian degrees.
So you love your motorsport? Then get into Australia's leading motorsport program, Checkered Flag. Every week we bring you the hottest local and international action from on and off the road. 4 wheels, 2 wheels, the speed, the power, the skills, the spills. If it moves in motor racing, you'll see it on Checkered Flag. Tuesday night on C7 Sport.